Hey, 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 can I talk black?
Franco, brains so black, get you black, can I talk black? Can I talk black with you?
Let's talk black.
Dr. Umar talk black with you.
Let's talk black.
Hey, can I talk black with you? Oh, all my women black, never
Outside of the tribe,
I don't think that we can match.
outside of the tribe,
Why you bring that baby back with you?
outside of the tribe,
Send that baby backpack with you.
outside of the tribe,
All my women black,
outside of the tribe,
I don't think that we can match.
outside of the tribe,
Why you bring that baby back with you?
outside of the tribe,
Send that baby backpack with you.
outside of the tribe.
What taking shots from them? If I do say, we was flooded with some gifts before I do that. 20 choppers from the block for my new babe. In case I run out of shots, you get my bouquet. Round turners, you been poking off the pack. If it ain't mismatch, please don't bring that puppy back. You know she mine if her father, mother, then I know she fine, cause her father, mother, black. Can I talk black with you? Can I talk black with you? Dr. Umar talk black with you. Hey, can I talk black with you? Oh, all my women black, never
Outside of the tribe,
I don't think that we can match.
outside of the tribe,
Why you bring that baby back with you?
outside of the tribe,
Send that baby backpack with you.
outside of the tribe,
All my women black,
outside of the tribe,
I don't think that we can match.
outside of the tribe,
Why you bring that baby back?
outside of the tribe,
Send that baby backpack with you.
outside of the
You
tribe,
make this baby up the pack. Don't make me have to send that baby right back with you. Have to send that baby back in the pack with you. Get your pack with you. Better ask me.
you better vow, better have a fucking whistle in the flag with your flag.
Don't be mad, cause they always in their back with your bag. Put your picture on the journey and some lag with your bag. From my sisters, and you know that we were back bitches. Better ask me, cause I know you mad cause she black bitches.
You know she black.
You know they DNA bad bitches.
You know she black.
I have a we ain't got no
Ain't no
admixtures.
admixing us.
All my women black, never
Outside of the tribe,
I don't think that we can match up.
outside of the tribe,
Why you bring that baby back with you?
outside of the tribe,
Send that baby backpack with you.
outside of the tribe,
All my women black,
outside of the tribe,
I don't think that we can match up.
outside of the tribe,
Why you bring that baby back with you?
outside of the tribe,
Send that baby backpack with you.
outside of the tribe,
All my women black, never.
outside of the tribe,
I don't think that we can match up.
outside of the tribe,
Why you bring that baby back with you?
outside of the tribe,
Send that baby backpack with you.
outside of the tribe.
Peace, 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 peace. What's good? What's good? What's good? This is your boy Solomon. I am here live. So when you come in the building, hit the like button. Hit the like button when you come in the building. Let me stop sharing. What's good? What's good? Yeah, we're doing an early morning sermon. It's going to be a busy day today. By the end of the day, you'll see why I made that statement. But we are here live. I just wanted to do the part 2 of, what I initially started a week ago on this channel. And I'm streaming on both channels. So shout out to Investing Out the Blue and the followers and supporters. And also I'm on Solar Vision. So later on today, we plan on bringing on Solar Vision, JJ. We're going to bring him on and we're going to see if he's ready to have an intellectual discussion. And we first got to get some things settled because we already know we had a falling out with JJ. So once we get past that publicly, we're going to get into the discussion and hopefully we could bring on Chris Harris, and hopefully he'll be willing to have a discussion if JJ adheres to the demands that we requested before we have the discussion. So, with that being said, I want to get into this once again. These type of streams, is heavy as far as with the information. So not trying to put myself on a pedestal or nothing like that, but it's kind of like a studious kind of like class environmental thing, and a lot of us, including myself, finds it to be a little boring. So but I want to present the information because we have to know this information. The reason why we have to know this information, because I'm looking at the presidential debate, and from a debate standpoint, Kamala Harris clearly won the debate. It should not be a question as to who won the debate. Kamala Harris seemed to be the more composed one. She was the one that actually kind of stuck to the question that was being asked. She threw in clever shots when the time presented itself. She threw in her clever shots, and to be honest with you, Donald Trump looked a little uncomfortable to me. He looked a little out of place. He looked as if he didn't really know how to attack Kamala on the points that she was making. It seemed like he had Joe Biden cornered on every type of point that Joe Biden possibly could make. But with Kamala Harris, it's a little different. He has to engage it different, obviously, because the gender and ethnicity of the woman may play a factor into that. But still, he looked a little uncomfortable. So, with that being said, I don't believe neither one of them. I think it's all staged. And when I say staged, I don't mean that they're like literally acting per se, right? I believe that they're both trying to win a debate. I believe that their teams put together arguments to try to, convince the masses to vote for, them. But this is from a 5% perspective, right? The 85%, right? For those who don't know the 5% perspective, the 85% are the deaf, dumb, and blind. You got 10% that know the truth, but they fool the masses. And then you got the 5%ers, the poor righteous teachers, right? So they are of the 10%. They are of the 10%. They know who really is running the show. They know that certain policies, they're not going to be able to change. They're just trying to sell it to you because they know that you care about the topic. So they're getting you to acquiesce to certain things that they're saying in order for you to cast your vote. Why is the vote important if this whole thing is being controlled by outside forces? The reason why the vote is important is because the masses of people in America have to believe that they have power to choose. If they don't believe that they have the power to choose, then it will be just total chaos in America. And it's getting there. You can see that people are, getting disgruntled with America, and particularly a portion of white America is becoming more and more disgruntled. I always go back to that Virginia. I think it was on the college campus in Virginia that they had the little protest, and they said, "You will not replace us." So if black people don't really know what they're talking about, like the first thing as a black person, in light of the history, and this is what I'm saying, like this is not just like a rambling militant crazy dude that's just a conspiracy theorist. These are the very people that enslaved you. These are the people that was hanging you during the Jim Crow era. I want to know what the fuck they're talking about when they talking about you will not replace us. I want to know every move that they're making politically, And I'm not talking about, oh yeah, well, we got to get into the voting process, because I'm not a person that believes in like the voting process. That's not politics to me. That's like, as what I refer to it as TMZ. That's TMZ politics. What you seen during the presidential debate was TMZ politics. That's TMZ politics. What is TMZ politics? is these two characters that you're familiar with having this discussion, and they are the face of the power structure. So once again, they want to make the masses think that they have a choice. So they have to do it that way. So the politics that I'm referring to is, what moves are they making? Because despite or in spite of whether you vote for Trump or Kamala Harris, they have an agenda set out for where the country is going to go regardless. So the real choice is to who is better fit for this particular agenda. Is it Kamala Harris or is it Donald Trump? And that goes back to the people that's actually controlling, foreign policy, that controls these transnational corporations, that controls the media, right? So what I plan on doing today is kind of finishing up, showing you the foundation. And this is like a historical thing. So these are people that are dead now for the most part. But I just think that we should understand how the world was shaped, our world was shaped, because these are the people that actually shape the current world that we live in. Like what we're doing now today is we're shaping the world that our children is going to live in, and our children's children going to live in, right? We have been influenced by the people that I'm going to be bringing up in this presentation. So this is why I go back. Oh, why are you talking about old shit? Niggas, their mind for some reason can't, this is like a reactionary thing. And this is a learned behavior. This is trained behavior. This is why we have to have our own schools. We have to have a more creative form of thinking. We have to think in the abstract. Black people have to think in the abstract, the what ifs. And if they do certain things, that we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Now, going back to the presidential debate. See Soldier is in the building. Lloyd Edward is in the building. Trip Dees is in the building. Ashton Weems is in the building. What's going on? People. Now, we have to begin to learn how to think in the abstract. We can't just be reacting to everything. Going back to the presidential debate. Not one of them said anything significant, that was going to be beneficial for Black people. Not one of them. Why is that a problem? Well, they talked about the LGBT. They talked about the immigration. They talk about transgender rights. They even talked about the whole crisis that's going on in the former Soviet Union. So they understand how to, specifically deal with saying, why isn't, the Black agenda being pushed to the forefront? Because niggas is asleep, and they know that for the most part, Black people are going to vote for Kamala Harris. Now, you have a certain segment of the Black population that are predominantly male and conservative that is leaning on the Trump side, right? That they're leaning on the Trump side. They want to be supporters of Donald Trump. I had a conversation about this before. Why support Donald Trump? Well, Donald Trump, it was, heavily influenced in hip hop culture, which is for the most part dominated by Black men. He would be quoted in many of the rap songs. He's new money. People, a lot of people don't understand this. Donald Trump is really like new money. His father was the one that actually helped construct New York City, right? So he's being handed the riches from his father. He's not old money. Old money would be going back to the Queen of England, and that's old money. New money is he's like new money. So the reason why that is important is because when you see new money, you tend to see people spending it in a lavish type of way. They kind of balling out in a way. And that's what you're seeing with Donald Trump to a certain degree. You see him buying casinos. He's hosting the fights with Mike Tyson. He's, doing stuff that, and then Black people tend to flock to that type of spending. This is why we like Scarface and all that other bullshit, So Angel's in the building. What's going on? Akasha. Tahuti is in the building. What's going on? All right. So, yes, you have him, he balls out. So black men in particular, tend to flock to that perspective. And it's a growing conservative black male perspective that is supporting Donald Trump. Now me in particular, I'm not voting, and I said this on previous streams that I only voted one time ever in my life, and that was I voted for Obama the first time. The first time, yes, we can. That Obama, I voted for that Obama, right? And that's the only time I ever voted, and that's probably the only time I ever will vote. And the reason why I say that is because I know the true system is from individuals that you probably don't know the name of. The people that really control America, the people that dictate policy, the people that shift cultural trends, the people that have the power and the funding and the wherewithal to influence thinking. So people think, okay, well, I'm free to do what I want, but you're not really free. You know why you're not really free? It's because you're influenced by the very media that they control. So your thinking is based off of the media that they control. You're educated through the educational system that they control. People always ask the question, well, why isn't Marcus Garvey talked about in the black schools as much as, but they'll tell you about the founding fathers and all, etc. And that's just a simplistic way of trying to get you to understand that certain curriculums are going to be prohibited in the hells of North America. Why? Because they don't want you to know that. Why don't they want you to know that? Because if you know those things, then that will create a certain type of individual being educated in a way where you have these individuals like Marcus Garvey. Because if you know the true story about Marcus Garvey, if you know the true story about the Nation of Islam, and not just Malcolm X, but the whole Nation of Islam in its entirety, if you know like these different organizations, you will see that their opposition was the power structure. If you really know about the Black Panther Party and the Black Liberation Army, then you know that they were up against the power structure. So you being against the power structure will be what you will be being taught when you learn about these key figures. So going back to the educational system, this is why they teach you about Martin Luther King and Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton and Obama, because those people were for the system. They were for coexisting and, integration and loving everybody. And someday, on the mountaintop, there will be everybody loving everybody, right? What is the matter with that? One would say, well, what is the matter with, teaching that? Well, the problem with that is that the power structure don't go by those standards. They just want you to be docile. So while they're teaching you that, they're practicing white supremacy. So that in turn will put you in a disadvantage in terms of how you're going to operate and your understanding of how to engage the world. Because once you're engaged the real world, you're not being hired at the job because you're Black. You're being underpaid. They're not allowing you to even buy property in your own community. Your community is being pretty much sabotaged by different ethnic groups that they empower and place into your community so you can be economically castrated. They push this version of hip hop, and we're compliances to it, obviously, because we're making the music. But still, once again, that goes back into exploitation of the youth, because these are, for the most part, young men that's looking for opportunity, right? They give you a form of music that is telling you to kill each other, promoting violence in the community. Your communities are heavily policed. Your women are being gunned down, shot in the face for boiling water. So this is not a love everybody country that you live in. You know? So while you're trying to love everybody, is all this hate being thrown towards you. And what does that do to you psychologically? That breaks down your self-confidence. Black people have a self-confidence issue. You know? So what we want to do, we mask it in materialism. Our power is being reflected through the wealth that we have. We want to ball out on each other. We want to show that we're living lavish. You know, that's our power, because we don't have any real power collectively. We don't really have any real power. So we're relegated to, you know, doing these things to resemble forms of power. You know, so it is necessary that we delve into this topic of who. We get into the names. People that, you know, once again, we're not taught these things in school. You know, these people are individuals that were the financiers, the money makers, the people that are actually sitting in the meetings, the intellectuals, the people that control nations and resources. You know, the people with the grandiose ideas on how to control or maintain a system of white supremacy throughout the centuries. They're doing this for their children's children. You know, so within the context of white supremacy, you know, you'll see, like, you know, a person will ask the question, well, why black people tend to have, you know, going back into the presidential debate, you know, Donald Trump didn't use the term black jobs, but he had to reword it, jobs that's occupied by black people, you know, and, you know, jobs that are occupied by a lot of black people tend to be service jobs. So in turn, you're still serving the very people that oppressed you for the last 400 some odd years. So you're still, you know, under a form of slavery, because you don't control or run anything, you know. So once again, the wantingness to be included within the system is one of the reasons why, you know, black people have these type of issues with looking at reality. You want to be a part of the system. They want to be, you know, they want to matter. But then, you know, we deal with the self-hate, so we don't really want to unite at the same time, you know. It's just like this thing. And they talk about reparations. And we can get into, we know, because they didn't really tell you the full truth about what they physically did to black people, but we have a general understanding of that. But really, we suffer from psychological forms of slavery, you know, the psychological. And that's something that's not within the school system. In fact, they weaponize that against us. You know, a lot of the things that we culturally had to do to survive. And they kind of use that against us. And they use that to criminalize us and make us feel as if we're like inferior. So everything be weaponized, you know, especially with the youth in the school system, you know. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share screen. We're gonna get into the information for a little bit. So let's go and did I close it out? I think I did close it out. Well, let's bring it the fuck back up. All right. All right. Okay, so let me go ahead and bring this thing back up real quick so we can get into this deal. All right. Okay. Who controls the United States, right? So before we got into Cecil Rhodes, and we talked about how he created this society and how the society eventually evolved into the Council on Foreign Relations, right? So just to give a few quotes for those that may not been around for the first presentation. You can reference the first presentation. It's on Blue Channels on television. Rhodes in 5 previous wills left his fortune to form a secret society, which was to advocate itself to the preservation and expansion of the British Empire, right? Once again, the goal of the secret society, it was to establish, promote, and develop secret society. The true aim and object whereof shall be the extension of British rule throughout the world. So this is the foundation of why they wanted to construct a British society. Cecil Rhodes, we know they got the Rhodes Scholarship. Cecil Rhodes, for those who are unaware, he was the one that actually controlled Rhodesia. He controlled the resources, the primary resources in Rhodesia, formerly known as Rhodesia, which was diamonds. He would corner the market on that. He would be the prime minister of that area for 16 years or for 6 years. And, that area now is known as Zimbabwe and Zambia, right? So this is the person that has the power, who controls the resources of that area. These are some of the men who he elected to be part of the inner circle. So this is another thing that Black people should understand, right? It don't really take that many people to organize. You don't really need, and in fact, it's smarter for you to have fewer people that is on the same page with you and has on a page with you far as ideologically and intellectually, right? They have to see what you see. So there's not going to be many people that see your vision. So you take the people that do see the vision and you can work with them and you can build from that. So it was just these 3 men, but they have power, resources. This would be the inner circle. Then he will branch off from there. They would add Alfred Milner, right? And then, they formed the inner circle, they formed the outer circle. As the organization began to develop, you see that they began to give the other organizations that that begin to branch off into, because initially this organization was called the Times Crowd, the Round Table Group, etc. And that's what you can see in the chart to your right. You see the Round Table Group and all the other organizations that came as a result of the Round Table Group. You see the Trilateral Commissions, Council on Foreign Relations, United Nations, the Bilderberg Group, Club of Rome, the Royal Institute of International Affairs, and the Trilateral Commission, right? So why are these organizations important, and how do it affect our lives? That is the key question that we should be asking ourselves, and that's what we're going to get into in a second. So once again, initially they formed the Royal Institute of International Affairs. It was called Chatham House. This was created by Cecil Rhodes. That's what you can see here. Milner's Kindergarten, or the Round Table Group, as what I said earlier. And other names for the organization was the Chatham House Crowd, Rhodes Crowd, Times Crowd, etc. Okay, so this society that branched off from the secret society that was established by Cecil Rhodes, right? It referred to itself as the Round Table Group, Chatham House Crowd, Rhodes Crowd, Times Crowd, right? They would then create the Royal Institute of International Affairs. And the American branch of the Royal Institute of International Affairs is the Council on Foreign Relations. So what is that saying exactly? What it's saying is that Cecil Rhodes started a secret society that was designed for world domination under quote unquote British rule, right? So we know that America, they sought independence from the British and gained independence in 1776, right? So America, in essence, is just an extension of the British Empire, per se. You know, they sought their independence and they achieved their independence. But, you know, we speak English and we have certain cultural customs and cultural staples that exist within America that shows that we're heavily influenced by England. What does that mean? We live in New York. Why do they call it New York? Well, there's a York, and that York is in England. They got a New England. We have a New England here. Well, there's old England. England, and that exists in Britain. New Hampshire. You know, the list goes on and on. So, yes, we're heavily influenced. We speak English. We, you know, the cultural customs that, you know, we have are, you know, for the most part, from the British, right? So, Cecil Rhodes constructed this secret society, and he has these branch organizations that he began to develop. And the first one was the Royal Institute of International Affairs, and he created an American branch of it in 1921 called the Council on Foreign Relations. So we show how this started with 3 men and now branched off into an organization that we labeled as the Council on Foreign Relations. A lot of you may hear that, you know, passingly when you're looking at, you know, the local or Fox News or CNN or whatever you're watching for your news information, the Council on Foreign Relations. Who are some of the members of the Council on Foreign Relations, which you should ask yourself. And what you would see is that a lot of the members within the Council on Foreign Relations are the very same people that you are looking at on TV to be your elected officials. So what does that mean? Once again, what is the purpose of Council on Foreign Relations? Right? The purpose of the creation of the Council on Foreign Relations was simply to create an organization that would influence America for what Cecil Rhodes wanted initially, and that is the expansion of the British Empire throughout the world. So, what is the responsibility of the Council on Foreign Relations? Is to shift policy to push America in that direction. So when you're reading about NAFTA, the North American Treaty Alliance, right? When you're reading about this idea of connecting Mexico into Canada, and you know, when you're looking at how they shipped a lot of the jobs into international spaces, when you're looking at all these things, this is being done by the very people that you consider to be your elected officials that you think you're choosing. They are members of the Council on Foreign Relations. Stacey Abrams is a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. Hillary Clinton was a member of the Council on Foreign Relations. You know, and we could go on and on and on with lists. I have a whole list. In fact, I have a whole list of members on the Council on Foreign Relations that I could just kind of briefly touch on and skim through if I can actually find it. But you have a whole list of members of the Council on Foreign Relations, and these people have been placed in key positions within politics. Yeah, I'll find it later. They have been put in key positions in politics to shift the thinking of the masses into thinking one that they have a choice. So what we're going to do now is go to the table. See, this is the actual table. We see how the table is constructed, but we don't know how. We don't know how and why the table is constructed and who played the key role and what these specific organizations are designed to do. Why do we need, if we got a Council on Foreign Relations, why do we need a trilateral commission? And why would we need a United Nations? What is the significant role of the Bilderberg Group in the Club of Rome, right? So we have a general understanding of what the Royal Institute of International Affairs was. It was, kind of the think tank that was designed to, once again, promote internationalism, British internationalism, Western Europe supremacy, right? America is on board with that. So you have the development of the Council on Foreign Relations. This is why generally when you look at wars, right, you see like it'll be America, Britain, France, they automatically are on the same page. So let's dig a little deeper, right? Now, it was in a meeting with the members of the Royal Institute of International Affairs. So now these people are having meetings now. Joseph Rittinger was a member, or attended one of the meetings, right? And he began to explain his philosophy on his concern for European unification. So all the people that were for this unification of Europe was attending these meetings. So once again, this is a think tank where people that have common interests now coming together and sharing ideas, right? So not long after his meeting in Chatham House, Rittinger met with W. Averill Harriman, who was at that time U.S. ambassador to England, who is William Averill Harriman, member of the Skull and Bones and Council on Foreign Relations. So he would meet up with him, and they would arrange a trip to the United States for Rittinger, who was Secretary General of the Independent League for Economic Cooperation, right? So this is just a place where people with common interests are sharing ideas and building relationships, right? Joseph Rittinger at the meeting with Chatham House, he will meet up with Averill Harriman, who is a member of the Skull and Bones and the Council on Foreign Relations, and they would arrange a trip to the United States, right? So this is a statement of Joseph Rittinger. He says, I found in America a unanimous approval for our ideas among financiers, businessmen, and politicians. Mr. Leffingwell, senior partner in JP Morgan Bank, says David Rockefeller and the CFR's chairman of the board from 1946 to 1953, and had been a CFR director since 1927. Nelson and David Rockefeller, Alfred Sloan, chairman of the Dodge Motor Company. This just giving a little information of the people who he was engaged with based off of the statement he initially made, which is there was a unanimous approval for our ideas among financiers, businessmen, and politicians. So it's just naming the different politicians that were, interested and on the same page as Joseph Rittinger, right? It then goes on to say, right? And these are very key individuals. So I'll kind of go into, naming some of them. It says Charles Hooks, president of the American Rolling Mills Company, Sir William Wiseman, partner of Kuhn Loeb, George Franklin, Rockefeller in-law, executive director of the CFR, and Trilateral Commission coordinator, and especially my old friend, Alfred Burleigh Jr. We're all in favor that Burleigh agreed to lead the American section of the ILEC. And that ILEC, once again, will be the Independent League for Economic Cooperation. right? He goes on to say John Foster Dulles, who was Secretary of State under Eisenhower, also agreed to help us. So you have the Secretary of the State, right? You have David Rockefeller, you have Averell Harriman, you have I believe Kellogg was involved in this thing, so you have people with finance, influence, and power being on the same page for this independent league of economic cooperation that all is designed to assist the overall agenda, which will be British imperialism throughout the world, right? Why is this important? When we look at who founded the Bilderberg Group, Joseph Rittinger was co-founder of the Bilderberg Group. So we know that the Bilderberg Group exists to this day. You got what they term conspiracy theorists when they see people driving to these secret meetings. And what are they talking about in the meetings? The Bilderberg Group. They believe that, some people go as far as they, do sacrifice and devil worship in those meetings and all different kinds of crazy stuff. No. It ain't that spooky, right? Even though they do shit like that, but not in the Bilderberg meeting. The Bilderberg meeting, they get together as what you're seeing here, that was initially initiated by the co-founder of the group. This is probably why he developed the group, is because you have these individuals with money, influence, and power constructing ideas for the greater purpose of global domination. So who else he's going to talk to? Yeah, I'm going to talk to people who's controlling finance. I want people who's controlling transportation. I want to talk to people who's controlling politics, and I want to talk to people who's controlling the media. And we're going to get together and we're going to be on the same page as to how we're going to construct this idea to sway the people into our overall agenda. So he founded the Bilderberg Group. So it says co-founder of the Bilderberg Group. Who are the other partners or partners that helped him found the Bilderberg Group? Okay, so Prince Bernhard is the other co-founder of the Bilderberg Group. Who is Prince Bernhard? He was a German-born prince who was the consort of Queen Juliana of the Netherlands. They were the parents of 4 children, including Princess Beatrix, who later served as Queen of the Netherlands from 1980 to 2013. So he would be the co-founder. Why is this important? Prince Bernhard, co-founder of the Bilderberg Group, was a Nazi. So we know that the Bilderberg Group exists today. The co-founder of the Bilderberg Group was literally a Nazi. People don't think that this should be important. People don't even consider this to be something that you should know. These are things that Black people should know. We should know these things. Remember, Barack Obama, when he became president, he went to a meeting. He went to a Bilderberg meeting. So when you hear Bilderberg meeting and you hear Hillary Clinton is going to the Bilderberg meeting, Barack Obama going to the Bilderberg meeting, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris going to a Bilderberg meeting, do know that the founders of the Bilderberg meeting were, one, a person that was for the expansion of British Empire, right? There was a part of the organization or at a meeting for the expansion of the British Empire. And the reason why he was interested in the idea is because he was trying to develop an organization for European economic continuity. Joseph Rittinger, this is why he developed the organization, right? And the other person was a former Nazi soldier. A former Nazi soldier. Right? So when you're looking at the very foundation of a organization that influenced American politics, you see the individuals that developed it, and that should be something that you should be concerned about, in my opinion. But it's just me. I'm just a rambling conspiracy theorist. I guess they call it a conspiracy theorist. So let me continue. Let's continue. Let us continue. All right. Let us continue. All right. So, all right. So we see that Prince Bernhard was a Nazi. All right. So let's get into it. Prince Bernhard was a member of the Reichswehr SS, a mounted unit of the SS, and had joined the Nazi Party before the war. Various members of his family and friends were aligned with the Nazis prior to the Second World War. So, meaning that they were fucking with the Nazis even before the Second World War. And a number of them attended the royal wedding. The royal wedding was when Hitler got married. Protocol demanded that the prospective prince consort be invited to an audience with his head of state, who at the time was Adolf Hitler. Hitler gave an account of the conversation he had with Bernhard in his Table Conversations. This book was a collection of monologues, remarks, and speeches Hitler gave during lunch or dinner to those he had invited. The prince's brothers, Prince Aschwin and Lippin Biesterfeld, was an officer in the German army. These are members who created the Bilderberg Group. So, with the left brain, let's kind of get into the right brain aspect of things, right? You see the symbolism, right? These are insignias that was mounted on the hats of the Nazis, right? You see the skull and bones, right? And then you see the secret organization that they call Skull and Bones, that is located in Yale University, right? You see the Thule Society. Thule Society was this political religious organization that existed in Germany, right? They, followed a lot of teachers of Madame Blavatsky, the pure race theory or the race theory, and the writings of Madame Blavatsky. The root race theory is what it called. She gets into a lot of that, a lot of those things. So, not to drift too much off on the point, we see that the Thule Society brandish the insignia of the swastika, which you can see located on the arms of the Nazi soldiers, right? So, do know that this organization, you're talking about the Skull and Bones organization, they helped fund the development of Nazi Germany, meaning that they helped provide them with weapons, and they helped fund a lot of the institutions that were erected during the rise of Adolf Hitler. So this was a movement, and these are members of the Bilderberg Group. Once again, now this is an interesting book that I read by Sylvia Brown, and she gets into the secret societies and gives documentation of a person that actually snuck into Yale University to see what are some of the things that are being done within this secret building that they call the Tomb that's located on Yale University's campus. Now, I'm going to say this, right? There's no more Skull and Bones at this point. Why there's no more Skull and Bones is because we know about Skull and Bones now, and that would defeat the whole purpose of it being a secret society, right? But Skull and Bones do exist, and it's most likely by another name of an organization that you have absolutely no clue exists. So with that being said, let's get into what the individual said that they read, their experience by when they went into the tomb. It says, there were a couple of rooms, there were a couple of bedrooms, and there was this monumental dining room with different rows of Skull and Bones songs suspended from the ceiling. The most shocking thing, and I say this because I do not think it is sort of important. President Bush does belong to the Skull and Bones. Everyone knows that. There is like a Nazi shrine inside. One room on the second floor was a bunch of swastikas, kind of an SS macho Nazi iconography, right? So not only that you see that Yale University are molding students into being for the expansion of the Nazi party, that they're doing this in secret. That you have absolutely no clue of what's going on. That in turn should be a problem for the black man and the black woman living in the hells of North America, right? So we now have the development of the Bilderberg Group, right? So now let's get on to the development of the Club of Rome. Founded in 1968 at Accademia dei Lincei in Rome, Italy. The Club of Rome consists of current and former heads of state, UN bureaucrats, high-level politicians, and government officials, diplomats, scientists, economists, and business leaders from around the globe. The Club of Rome conducts research and hosts debates, conferences, lectures, high-level meetings, and events. The club also publishes a limited number of peer-reviewed reports to the Club of Rome, the most famous of which is Limits to Growth. The Club of Rome's mission is to promote understanding of the global challenges facing humanity and to propose solutions through our scientific analysis, communication, and advocacy. All right. So on paper, it sounds like a, benign organization. Going back to, eugenics and population control, you see this man by the name of Robert Malthus. In 1798, he wrote essays where he was talking about the population, or what he referred to as the Malthusian catastrophe. His theory suggested that if left unchecked, the world's population will increase so much that it would have an impact on the production of food. So in essence, they believe that the human population was growing more rapidly than the food population, which in turn would make it harder for certain groups of people to feed themselves. This would be in turn a Malthusian catastrophe, right? So this is all coming from Malthus. Now the views and perspectives of Malthus are in turn similar to the views and perspectives of the Club of Rome. Right? So we get into, certain things that is being suggested within this quote from Robert Malthus. It says, I think I may make fairly two postulates. First, that food is necessary for the existence of man. Secondly, that the passion between the sexes is necessary and will remain nearly in its present state. Assuming then my postulata as granted, I say that the power of population is indefinitely greater than the power in the earth to produce sustenance for man. population, when unchecked, increases in a geometrical ratio. Substances increase only in an arithmetical ratio. A slight acquaintance with number will show the immensity of the first power in comparison of the second. By the law of our nature, which makes food necessary to the life of man, the effects of these two unequal powers must be kept equal. This implies a strong and consistent operating check on population from the difficulty of sustenance. This difficulty must fall somewhere and must necessarily be severely felt by a large portion of mankind. So, in essence, what he's saying is, if left unchecked, the population will increase and surpass its capacity to produce food. So the earth naturally regulates itself through famine, disease, and war. This is what is being suggested here, right? These are the works of Robert Malthus. Why is this important? Once again, if you put side by side the objectives of the Club of Rome, they are in line to the T of the objectives of the Malthusians. Remember, as I showed you in the presentation when I was talking about eugenics and population control, that it would in fact be Robert Malthus that in many ways influenced Charles Darwin, that in which influenced Francis Galton, right? So, understanding that, we'll get into the highlighted part. It says Malthus saw population growth as being inevitable whenever conditions improve, thereby precluding real progress towards a utopian society. The power of population is indefinitely greater than the power in the earth to produce sustenance for man. So this is something that was written in the Club of Rome, right? It says, in the present growth trends in the world, industrialization, pollution, food production, and resource depletion continue unchanged. The limits to growth on this planet will be reached sometime within the next 100 years. The most probable result will be a rather sudden and uncontrollable decline in both population and industrial capacity. What does that mean? Sudden and uncontrollable decline, right? In both population and industrial capacity. The overwhelming growth in world population caused by the positive birth rate loop is a recent phenomenon, a result of mankind's very successful reduction of worldwide mortality. The controlling negative feedback loop has been weakened, allowing the positive loop to operate virtually without constraint. There are only two ways to restore the resulting imbalance. Either the birth rate must be brought down to equal the new lower death rate, or the death rate must rise again. So, in essence, his ideas of how to fix this trending issue of resource depletion and human production, right? He, in essence, is saying the very same thing that Malthus said maybe 200 years before him. So do know that, in essence, they are on the same page concerning the fact that the Earth population has declined. So when we get into the racial element, we see that, well, if we're going to get rid of somebody to, make this thing work, we're going to get rid of the downtrodden of society, which would be the black man and the black woman here in the hells of North America. You can find this in this book here that was produced, written, and distributed by the Club of Rome. It says, It is a law of nature that any vacuum will be filled and therefore eliminated unless this is physically prevented. Nature, as the saying goes, abhors a vacuum, and people, as children of nature, can only feel uncomfortable, even though they may not recognize that they are living in a vacuum. How then is the vacuum to be eliminated? It would seem that humans need a common motivation, namely a common adversary to organize and act together in the vacuum. Such a motivation must be found to bring the divided nations together to face an outside enemy, either a real one or else one invented for the purpose. So now you're talking about the manipulation of the masses. We are now finally making ground within the very document that is accessible to the public. One may ask the question, well, why would they tell the public that? Because they know that you're deaf, dumb, and blind. They know that you're not going to read the book. You're too busy worried about the election, Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, the new video that's out by, I don't want to say an old rapper's name or an old artist's name, but you get the drift. They're looking for the next Jay-Z album. They're looking for the next Beyonce album. They're looking at the reality shows. They want to know what the Desperate Housewives doing and what the Housewives of Atlanta doing. They give a damn about a book that was written by the Club of Rome. So it says in the very document, right? To manufacture something, either, a real one or one invented for the purpose. So by any means, they're going to achieve their overall objective, which is a Malthusian agenda. New enemies, therefore, have to be identified. New strategies imagined, new weapons devised. The common enemy of humanity is man. This is what it said in the Club of Rome. In search for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the bill. All these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it is only through change, attitudes, and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy then is humanity itself. So this is a war that has been waged on humanity for the overall objective of Bilderberg groups that was created by former Nazis and Caesar Rhodes, who constructed the organization that was specifically designed for world population. The control of world population, should I say, right? So, once again, we get into the individuals that are, making certain statements and the organizations that they are connected with, right? The founders of the Club of Rome: Valerio Pesci, David Rockefeller, Alexander King. What's going on? 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 All right, so I'm gonna stop here at the Club of Rome. We'll continue this presentation on a later date. We'll keep you posted. Look out for the notification. Look out for the notification. Let me stop sharing. So we'll get more in depth into it. We'll dig a little deeper. As you can see, we get into the organizations and the names, and the masses. they're eventually going to see, you know. So it's necessary to present this information. That way you can have a better understanding of when you're talking about politics, and when you hear certain things, when you hear certain organizations being mentioned, that you know what the organization is about and how it was designed. I will be going live later. Look out for the notification. That will be on the YouTube Hood 215. Keep you posted on when I go live on 215. All right. So with that being said, once again, shout out to Blue for giving me the platform to present this information. We're going to go ahead and sign out for now. This is your boy Soul of Mine. Let me see if we can share. Oh yeah, we can share. Let's go. Let's get it.